Thank you very much. As you heard, I've had a fortunate opportunity to work across a lot of different teams, a lot of different organizations. I've worked in healthcare, technology, retail, large brands, small brands. But there's a commonality among all of these that ties them all together. And that is when teams and organizations can find the positive aspect of a failure and bring it forward into innovation as well as into success. So today I'm going to talk to you about those opportunities and those things that you can do, whether you're a student, whether you are a seasoned professional, to do in your organizations to contribute to that kind of culture. Failing should not be viewed as a setback, but instead as an opportunity for learning and a way that you can progress and be innovative within your company. Now, this does not mean that you're going to be building the next new iPhone or the next new technology gadget. It can come in all forms of innovation and improvements, which I will talk about. So when companies fail, it doesn't mean that they need to change their entire strategy and go 180 degrees in a different direction. What it means is that they need to build that muscle organizationally from the CEO down to the junior associate. Everyone has to be in alignment in terms of this is how we are going to proceed as a company. This is how we proceed as a team. And when you do that, you are able to build this spirit of culture, learning, and innovation that will come naturally. So, contrary to popular belief, this is a myth. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is a stepping stone. We've all grown up thinking failure is bad, something you need to avoid. That's not the case. Think about every great innovator who has brought forward new technology, new products, something innovative into the market, something never done before. They didn't fail and stop doing what they were doing. They continued to persevere. So every great inventor at some point or another has failed. In fact, failure is essential for the success of future innovation. It is not only a foundational need, it is an essential need that us as individuals and corporations need to embrace. Failing fast and having that knowledge to pivot and knowing when to pivot and innovate is a mindset that successful companies have demonstrated over time. Every successful leader has led an organization where they didn't let failure stop them. And of course, we can't talk about innovation without talking about one of the pioneers of innovation, Thomas Edison. Edison is not only credited with the invention of the light bulb, he is credited with over 2,300 patents globally. His work in the light bulb, while maybe didn't succeed initially, he was asked about this and he said simply, I didn't fail. I only found 10,000 ways in which it wouldn't work. So it shows you that that spirit of continuing to test and try and implement is critical to future successes. How else would he have gone through this kind of track and created 2,300 patents if he didn't have this mindset? He recorded all of his experiments across notebooks. He had 4,000 notebooks of his notes, and that led to future innovations, not only in power and electric, but in sound recording and in business methodologies and processes, business manufacturing, and other areas. How else would he have done that if he had not taken that mindset and that approach? So it's this mindset that is critical for companies to adapt and to continue to develop their solutions and offerings. So let's talk about a great example. Blockbuster, as I'm sure some of you know, was a behemoth in the home entertainment industry. Netflix you all are familiar with and you all know. But who was going to compete against Blockbuster? Somebody who had 6,000 stores nationwide. Netflix comes into the picture. What do? They disrupt what Blockbuster's doing. Blockbuster, you go into the store, you find a title on the shelf, you probably leave with 3 or 4 because they were all different titles, old, new releases, you had different dates that you had to return them. Inevitably, you missed those dates and then they hit you with the late fees. And that was their model. They were building revenue based on late fees of rentals, and Netflix came in and disrupted that with a model of home convenience, with a model of subscription fee instead of paying per title. Order them from your couch. Keep them as long as you like, doesn't matter. So when Netflix came in and said, hey, we're not going to be able to compete against this, they offered to Blockbuster to buy their business, which we know they declined. They asked them for the caveat to only be the online arm of the Blockbuster business. And so what they did is they stayed in that space, but they continued to innovate. Fast forward, they now align with production companies like Lionsgate, Disney, Paramount, huge organizations where then they can get access to those titles. Then they pivoted again after that failed collaboration with Blockbuster, and they started building their own content. A few years ago, they had, for original content, 36 Oscar nominations in 1 year. For a company that was doing online DVDs and selling you for a home subscription is now one of the major producers of movie content in Hollywood. So seeing that they couldn't continue to compete with Netflix success, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy. What happened at that filing? They were in debt of close to $1 billion when they closed. Meanwhile, Netflix is 300 million subscribers and is worth $446 billion, which is a huge credit to Netflix's philosophy of continuing to pivot and continuing to adapt to what is in the market. So during this talk, I'm going to give you 4 actionable steps that you can do no matter what your level in an organization. Doesn't matter where you sit, your maturity, your experience. These are 4 principles that you can bring to your work that'll help you to build this culture of learning and failing fast. So first, start small. Or as I always like to say, test before you invest. Before you start to scale to something large in terms of marketing programs, sales opportunities, partnerships, test before you fully sink your budgets, your people, and your efforts against it. You need to make decisions in your organization about market feasibility, what is the revenue stream going to look like for my business, how is this going to impact my people, process, and technology. So when you do that, and by starting small, you can learn those things. The thing that most people fail is they don't put the discipline to it to measure it. They set it and forget it, which is not the way that you want to achieve success. You need to have the discipline to track, to measure, and to make those hard decisions. And that culture, when it is stood up in the appropriate way, will allow you to do that. When something is not working, the worst thing you can do is have it continue to work as it is and continue to be a revenue drain for your business or not be successful. So there are tons of technology for tracking. There are tons of sophistication out in the market for you to be able to do this. What you need the discipline to do is not only the measurement frequency, but also to track the things that matter. You can track every single activity on a website. You can track every interaction in a store. But what are the things that are going to be the most meaningful and that are going to provide the action that you can take to move your business to the next level? So when you do this and you apply this discipline, that's how you can bring this culture into your team. There is a individual by the name of John Wanamaker who was credited with developing the first department store concept. He has a famous quote in the advertising industry, which is, "I know 50% of my advertising budget is wasted. The problem is I don't know which half." So when you apply this and you apply this test before you invest methodology, you'll be able to avoid a situation where you will find yourself where you don't know what's successful and you don't know what's working. The second area, seek feedback. Teams should always use failure as a learning tool and not take it personally, but to take it strategically. And the faster you get feedback, the faster you can grow and change. So we all know feedback is going to come in a lot of different ways to you. A lot of times it comes unsolicited. A lot of times it's feedback maybe you don't want to hear. Hard as it is, you have to ask for feedback if you're not getting it. And that's where successful companies can take that feedback and bring their organizations to the next level. So let's break it down into two areas. We'll say internal feedback and external feedback. So internal feedback, it's important to get stakeholders in your organization to align with what you are moving forward in terms of your program objectives, what you're trying to accomplish. And a great example of this is Pixar Studios. Pixar Studios has developed an internal process that they call the Brain Trust. And what the Brain Trust is a collaboration session among many of their different teams who have rough cuts, who have concepts of ideas, who have rough ideas of what kind of movie they want to make next. And they throw it up in a room. There's no personal feelings. It is very tough sessions, and what comes out is supposed to be collaboratively a better product than anyone could work on individually. And that is the benefit of team organizations, right? That's why those kinds of meetings, those kinds of sessions are important. So when that happens, you are going to get the best inputs and the best thoughts of your teams to build the best possible product. A couple examples of movies that have come out of that process are Toy Story 4, Ratatouille, and most recently Inside Out. So those movies would not have been made if it had not been for those processes. On the external side, using the example that maybe you're familiar with of who they are today, Lego, back in the early 2000s, late 90s, not everything was awesome for Lego back then. They were having rising costs, sales were down, the cost of manufacturing was going through the roof. It was well before any of the Lego franchise movies that maybe some of you are familiar with today. And they were in a really bad spot, almost teetering on the verge of bankruptcy. In the early 2000s, they launched a product called Mindstorm. Mindstorms was a robotics product, and it was a little bit of a new product build for them. What was unique about it is that there was no instructions. It was totally up to the user to build whatever it is they wanted. So there was no predetermined, this is a car, this is a house, this is anything. It was totally left up to the imagination of the users. Shortly after their launch, robotics fanatics jumped on this product. And this product brain, this Lego brain that they had created for this product was being hacked by robotics users. And they were posting code online so that they could share, hey, I created this new feature. Hey, check this out. And they were posting proprietary Lego code on the internet. And so Lego Legal wanted to cease and desist. And before they decided to do that, somebody said, no, wait, let's talk to the users. They're coming up with some great ideas. Maybe we should listen. So what came out of that opportunity was the creation of Lego's Ambassador Program. So Lego Ambassador Program has over 1 million active users. They're in 60 countries. And if you are they call them a home creator, if you're a home creator and your design that you created gets more than 10,000 likes, they'll put you in touch with one of their internal designers so you can refine the product. So it's a great opportunity to take direct feedback from your audience externally who are excited about your product and help you to also continue to develop. If you get those 10,000 likes and you have a designer working with you, you can get your product in store. One of the most famous examples of that is the Friends Central Perk, which was actually designed by one of their users and brought to Lego. So you never know, depending upon the brand, if they're engaging with you as users, there's always an opportunity to be a part of their brand journey. Third, normalize failure. So oftentimes, we don't want to bring up failure in a meeting. We don't want to say something didn't work. For leaders, this is particularly important, where failures are shared in a safe, non-judgmental environment, and people can raise issues, questions, concerns, and not be concerned about the implications of that. The most common use of that is something that a lot of businesses refer to as their postmortem. Usually a discussion at the end of a project, end of a product launch, you name it. What went well? What didn't go well? What can we improve? What can we learn? But the most important thing from those discussions, and it's important to acknowledge the successes, it's equally important to acknowledge the failures, and then to move on. But what is the most important thing coming out of that meeting is that you have actionable steps by which to move forward. You don't want to repeat mistakes. You don't want to repeat bad market designs. You don't want to repeat bad strategies in sales. This is an opportunity to make sure that as a team, as an organization, you are identifying the things that collectively the organization and the team can do better. It's not about individualized issues or things that were missed. It is as a team. So this is really critical when it comes to building that culture in a safe environment where you can learn from that. The companies that are the most successful are the ones that can do this, but they can do it fast. So they don't wait months and weeks for these types of assessments and discussions and internal reviews to happen, because it is important to the success of your brand and of your organization to be able to do this in a timely manner. And then the fourth area, keep moving forward. Don't dwell on what the setbacks were or what didn't work. You just have to keep on iterating and adjusting. So some of you who are students may know this phrase from Disney's movie, Meet the Robinsons. For those of you who are not students, you probably know this from Walt Disney. And this was really his mantra. And it's something that really guided him in terms of how he approached what he did in business. So he started as a reporter. Actually was fired from his first job. The reason was he lacked the imagination. So the person who is credited with the imaginative spirit of the Disney brand was fired from his first job for no imagination. So by moving forward and continuing to pick himself up, identify the next opportunity, and he went through several animation companies that failed. They didn't work. But he kept on trying to move forward, kept on thinking about what he learned and applying it. And it wasn't until his 1928 premiere of Steamboat Willie, which is credited as an innovative cartoon for a couple reasons. One, because it was really the first time that anyone has seen Mickey Mouse, right? So it was the first time that the brand that Disney would be on screen, but it was also the first time that a movie was put with sound or music. So by creating this and by learning what he did over the course of those different business failures, he basically obsoleted everything prior to him in one 4-minute movie. So think about the impact of that. You're struggling in a business, you're struggling to break through in a market, and in one creation, you have totally changed the entire market. And that's what he's really, credited for. And that we forget about the beginnings of Disney, but that history, and he ran it 5 times a day for 2 weeks. And that was the span of Steamboat Willie in the New York City Colonial Theater in 1928. That was it. But it was because of that he was able to then put all these things behind him, move forward to the next challenge, and to be able to continue to innovate and apply that spirit forward. So innovation does not have to come just in product development or creating the next new iPhone or the next new widget. It also comes in your methodologies. It comes in your business processes. It comes in a lot of other things that can be proprietary to your organizations, or even to different IP that you can utilize it for future business successes. It doesn't have to be limited to that. So when you think about innovation, don't think about product only. It's the world is your oyster. You can do anything that you want and apply it. So imagine if we all treated failure like a scientist, right? Scientist is going to look at analytic data. They're going to look at it very statistically. Instead of feeling defeated, analyze, adjust, try it again. So what I would offer to all of you is your challenge as you come out of this innovation discussion. Think about something that you can change, some small risk, some small calculated risk that you can change. Try to do that, apply it, use that as a method of moving forward what you are doing. And it doesn't matter how big or small. It matters that you're building that spirit, and when you do that, you will see that your teammates, your organization will start to embrace the same kind of culture. And that's how large, successful companies come to be, is that kind of spirit and that kind of entrepreneurship that really fosters this inorganic growth internally. So with that, I want to thank you, and I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon. And please go ahead and try that challenge. Thank you.